It's a bit rainy here as I record this, the 7th of our Town and Town Hall History video series. And I think it's kind of fitting. As the century turned from the 1700s to the 1800s, Mont Vernon was really something of a boom town. But it really only lasted 30 years. As America moved towards industrialization, it got harder and harder to make a living in our little hilltop town. Once again, the Second New Hampshire Turnpike foreshadowed Mont Vernon's destiny. Remember, its creation in 1801 helped to get us our town charter by attracting new business and people to Amherst's northwest corner. Census records state that the year before the turnpike was finished, Mont Vernon's population was 680. That number grew to 762 in 1803. In only 3 years, Mont Vernon's population grew 12.1%. Booming! For the next 30 years, Mont Vernon continued to count about 760 residents. Things began to change in the 1830s. But they were not happy changes for the town or the turnpike. In 1837, the same year as our town hall crossed the road, those
proprietors of the Second New Hampshire Turnpike
went bankrupt and stopped collecting tolls. Perhaps this was because there were fewer paying travelers. After 30 years, more roads must have been available, so folks had other travel options. Between 1830 and 1840, Mont Vernon lost over 40 residents. Those who remained could not have known that it would take more than 100 years for the hilltop population to get back to its early 1800s peak of 760. For a while, it may have looked like the town we fought so hard for was going to disappear, like Monson or Fisherville. Those religious subsistence farmers that first civilized our hilltop town also valued education. The new meeting house was used as a school years before Mont Vernon became a town. By 1820, there were 5 school districts in Mont Vernon, each one complete with its own schoolhouse and teacher. These were elementary schools, and they were required by state law. However, many townfolk wanted more for their children, and children in general. In the 1830s, Mont Vernonites began to hire college students to teach high school level classes during the summer months. Do you know where they were taught? That's right, they used the town hall again. In 1847, Dartmouth College student George Stevens positively inspired the town. Our town historian, Charles Smith, records that Mr. Stevenson had an unusual faculty for making others know and remember. In this special term, he so aroused the interest of the people that they were more than ever eager to establish a permanent school. Plans were made, support developed, and in 1853, classes began in the Appleton Academy. Students came from Mont Vernon, Amherst, New Boston, Limeboro, Milford, and even Fisherville. Some came from as far away as Vermont and Maine. Many of these students, as well as the Apple Academy teachers, needed a place to stay during the school term. Room and board arrangements were made around the village. Folks with big houses rented out a room or two. This was the room, and provided home-cooked meals for their paying guests. That was the board. Mont Vernon was very proud of this new school. It seems like half our history book is dedicated to the folks who created it and those that attended it. Isn't it good to know that posterity has a detailed list of all who taught here and for how long? We've even got descriptions of the equipment they had for teaching and way too many first-hand accounts of the annual parties held for the prosperous alumni. Boring. Who cares? The truth is, none of this information has ever done much for me. But you know, this part of history shows that Mont Vernon had appeal to out-of-towners, just as America's Gilded Era was coming of age. The Gilded Age was a time when a lot of money was made by folks with the right ideas. Industry enabled mass production and the ability to transport all that new stuff faster and cheaper. Those that were profiting were not troubled by pesky regulations that limited their air and water pollution, required safe working conditions, and reduced child labor. I'm sure you can imagine that unregulated city life was not healthy. No wonder city folk that could afford to left for a good part of the year, especially when summer heat made urban conditions particularly grim. Our agrarian hilltop was the exact opposite of all of that. Up here there were gallons of mountain crisp water, and as resident F.O. Kittredge wrote, "There's always a cool breeze the warmest hour of the day." He spoke of the abundance of fruit and berries, and the many romantic retreats and natural curiosities the Mont Vernon area had to offer. As nice as all that sounds, it was not paying the bills, and town population started to decline. Some folks left for better farms out west. Other folks gave up farming altogether and left to seek work in the water and steam-powered mills and factories. Both options required people to move away from Mont Vernon. Many of the old farms started going to seed, while places like Nashua, Lowell, and Boston grew. In an age that lost its use or pre-industrial farming practices, Mont Vernon was losing its reason to exist. If it wasn't for this fella and his extraordinary business sense, our beautiful little town may well have fallen off the map. Forever. More about him next time. Bye for now.